We're all in business for a reason. The problem that so many small business owners have is they go in 10 million different directions, not really sure which way to go. Listen as your team of experts, Jennifer Glass and Patricia Reszetylo, go through what you need in your business to really make it stand out and benefit you. Because it's the bottom line that matters. Hello and welcome to another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast, where we are dedicated to your success. First, if this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much for listening and checking us out. If you are a returning listener, thank you also for being with us for this incredible ride. So, on today's conversation, we are going to be talking about when you are outgrowing the room you are actually in. There's a lot of times that ambition guilt comes and hits us in different ways. Sometimes it's a simple, I just need to do something else. Sometimes it's, I have to get out of my own way. Sometimes it's impostor syndrome. There's a lot of different things that may be, excuse me, that may be hitting. Sometimes a lot of them all at the same time. Some of them one at a time, some of them you may never even experience. But there's a lot of times that they may present themselves, and also in the weirdest of ways that it can pop itself up as well. So, Patricia, let me ask you first of all, in the green room, we were talking that you definitely found yourself outgrowing some of those uh, positions, ideas, thoughts in terms of where you've been in your own business. Can you give us a little bit of background there, please?
Um, yeah. Yeah. So I have actually been working on starting a business for an awfully long time. So for me to say it's, well, okay. I'll go back to a old business that I outgrew. So I was doing what was effectively a podcast in the equestrian horse industry niche. And I ended up outgrowing it because I saw a lot of other people starting to do similar things, and I didn't actually know how to compete with them. So that's not the same thing, though. That's my marketing not keeping up with the industry. Let me use somebody else as an example. Um, so I worked with an individual as a member of his organization for, oh, no, 2 or 3 years anyway. And he was the founder, he was the CEO, he was running the company, and it went in waves. He would have a good successful kind of wave where he was bringing people in, they were working with him as a client, they were working with him as independent contractors for his business. And then after a while, he would basically burn it down to the foundations and start over again. I only had seen it one time, but I knew from other people that he had done it before. So when I saw it happening, I at least had a clue as to what was happening that I got out.
At least you noticed it and you had that chance to get out,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a really
It was
big
not
thing.
an, yeah. And it wasn't an easy decision for me to get out. I was stuck in it because of commitments I had made. But it was really frustrating to see this person burning it down. It was even more frustrating to know that he actually knew why he was doing it and that it had happened before and it would probably happen again. So sometimes you can observe this in someone else, sometimes you can observe it in yourself, where your business is going along and you're successful and you grow a little bit and you're like, yeah, and you're successful and you grow a bit more and you're like, hmm. And then it gets so big and maybe you have staff, you have locations, whatever it is that scaling has meant to you. And you personally haven't kept up with your own personal development and you implode, or you have other people in your life that can't deal with it and you can't get rid of them. And so you have to implode or step down or sell it or something.
Well, do you implode or do you find other ways to navigate? Because again,
Hopefully,
one of the things about imploding means that if you're a business owner, that the business literally from the outside in caves in.
well, implodes or explodes, whatever, however it falls out, right?
Okay.
Um, I've seen people hit that some ceiling, some kind of mental, emotional ceiling, and they can't go beyond it. It might be them, it might be other, influences, family members who are like, what do you think you're doing? You don't deserve that. And maybe they don't say it in those terms, but the message is there. And they expect you to stay a certain quantity, shall we say. And when you change that, they can't deal with it. I've certainly had that happen.
Okay. So let me ask a different question. If we're thinking about where we're coming from and we're looking at operating our business in a position of strength as opposed to weakness or otherwise in a position that we're not at our optimal best, there's, like you said, a whole bunch of reasons why we may not be operating at our best. But is there anything that we can do other than simply taking a step back and maybe saying, I need to reevaluate or whatever it may be? And by the way, stepping back and saying I need to reevaluate is not a bad thing, right? Just that we're
Yeah.
clear on that.
Yeah.
Very often, if you keep going down, and to use the term, the fallacy of sunk costs, if you keep going down a certain path and you keep throwing money after money after money trying to do something because you went so far, it may not be the best way for you to figure out what you're doing or not doing. And so that need to reevaluate exactly where it is and what you're doing
Yep.
is going to be extremely important. So let's just
Yep.
understand where that is. But
Yeah.
if we're looking though at that reevaluation, or we're looking at how we start going through what it is that we're doing in business, is it complete shift? Is it a different trajectory? I know, Patricia, for your businesses itself, you have, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to say this, but you have shifted direction more times in the last several years than I think some of the interstates, but that's a different story.
Uh, yeah. Well, I've been trying to find my direction, and I've been trying to find my own identity. Um, Having come out of some nasty family things. Um, but I mean that underscores the whole thing. If you don't have some kind of support system built in that is not necessarily business specific, but is somehow mental health specific, um, at some point you're going to hit some ceiling somewhere that you just can't go beyond. You can't change your perspective fast enough. You can't change it well enough. You need to have some kind of, in general terms, mental health support. Now, that could be a therapist, that could be a spouse who enjoys talking with you and helping you figure stuff out. it could be a friend, it could be a lot of different things. You know, it's just you need that because you're growing and you're trying to keep up with this business. And, I mean, that's why we bring on things like CEOs and CFOs and all the different people that can run the different pieces because those are each full-time jobs at some point, and you can't do, I don't know, however many full-time jobs. You don't want to do full-time jobs. You may not want to do a full-time job, period. And it's not why you started a business, so that you could work yourself into an early grave.
Absolutely. Like you said, you didn't get into this to do certain things. And it's like I say very often, I didn't get into my business to be a bookkeeper. I don't
Yeah.
like doing that.
Yeah.
I hate doing that. Let's just
Oh,
be honest. Um, it's a lot easier when there's systems behind the scenes that can help with that. And I don't like chasing people for money. I don't like dealing with all of that. That's also why I have VAs that do a lot of that for me as well,
yeah. Yeah.
because I can focus on the things that I need to be doing and let them be doing the $5 an hour things. So that becomes important from that perspective as well. So if we look though at other ways though that we can really identify where we may be outgrowing the room, is there anything else that you can think of that would say yes, yes, no?
Um, well, it kind of depends what room it is. I've in the past
Can
had
I actually
different,
just take a step back because
yes,
you said depends what room it is? Can you just define what you mean?
right. Um, I'm using room in a metaphorical sense here. Um, Meaning kind of where you are in your life and what as relative to where you want to go. So your business is a room. Your family life is a room. For example, I've had business coaches that I outgrew. I, I outgrew them. They weren't growing fast enough to keep up with me. So I had to quit going to them. Yeah, it's uncomfortable and it's frustrating. And why can't this person, understand that I need more of this and give it to me?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, they're growing in their own directions, and you got to let that go. So,
Right. So I'm
um,
going to throw a couple more out there just so that we can really identify where things may or may not ultimately be going off the rails with the business. And the first one is if you yourself are the bottleneck as the founder of the business, right? Very often, if every decision has to come through me, I don't allow decisions to come through the people on my team to really
yep,
be making those kinds of decisions in the business. That
yep,
is going to be one of those areas where you really may be uh, in that you need to move on and you have to outgrow the position that you're in
yep,
order to allow other people to really start having the freedom. The other thing
yep,
is also if you hired in the beginning more people that can work with you in a lot of different positions as opposed to a very specific position. As an example, if you brought in somebody that is good at sales, at marketing, and operations, they may be good, but they're not great in all of those areas. So the question is that the right kind of person on your team that you still need or even want to continue being on your team? Or do you want to be finding someone else that can really be driving the boat for you in terms of
Right.
how you are going to keep moving forward in your business? If you think about it from
Right.
this perspective, you have so many people that you can possibly be bringing into the business. And especially now that you are doing better, there's more money coming in the business. You can afford, traditionally or typically speaking, to hire the right kinds of people in the right areas. That doesn't mean you want to necessarily fire the people that were with you from the beginning, but you can give them a very specific role in the area that either they feel best in or that you think they would be best in. And that way you continue honoring the loyalty of your employees as you're still growing the business. And that is another thing when it comes down to that loyalty. Are you feeling loyal to the business model? Are you feeling loyal to the business that you are actually doing? Sometimes it's also, I lose interest in what it is that I'm doing, right? And
Yes.
Patricia, I know that we can certainly, and again, I hate to throw you under the bus, but sometimes the model just doesn't make sense anymore. It loses
Right.
its allure.
Right. If the model doesn't work for you, you could maybe stay in the same business, but change the model, which I guess makes it a different business. Um, you got to have something that works for you. You know, if you're running the business yourself and you're not happy with what you're doing, well, change it or build something new or sell it or something. You don't have to be frustrated and unwilling to work and all the other problems that come up when you're not happy with what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes. So,
Life is
Patricia,
too
let me
short.
ask as we're wrapping up our conversation, uh, if you were going to be summing it all up for our listeners in 30 seconds, what would
Oh,
you sum it up as?
it is very likely that one can absolutely outgrow the room that they are in with their business. They can outgrow the business, or they could be the bottleneck of the business. Those can be different things. Um, Usually, all of them are marked by frustration or boredom. And those are signs that you need to look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, and see if it's still a fit for you. Once you get that answer, then you go from there. But yeah, life is too short to be
Absolutely. Like you were
frustrated.
just saying, life is too short to be frustrated. It's also important that we understand where we are coming from in our business, and that sometimes we understand that our business is another living, breathing entity
Yeah,
that we need to be taken care of. We
yeah,
can't neglect it. We've said this before a couple of times, but we have to understand that just like with a child, sometimes you have to discipline your child so that they don't put their hand on the stove when there's a fire, right? You don't want that. You also don't want your business to be going in a certain path when it should not be going in that direction. And
yeah,
so, looking at what it is that you are doing, whether you are the parent in this case, the child in this case, as like I said with the stove, that becomes a really important issue that you need to really figure out. Like I said, that maybe uh, all decisions have to go through you. That is basically like the child, right? You're trying to put your hand on the fire. You're trying to control everything in the business. And they, your employees, are the ones trying to actually help the business grow. They're trying to help you get out of your own way as well. And so it becomes really important as we think about where we're going, what it is that we're trying to do, to really understand how all of this is going to ultimately impact you and your business. On that note, this has been another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters. And until next time, here is to your success. Thanks so much for listening to another amazing episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast. We're all about helping the small business community grow and reaching as many people as we can. And the algorithms on the podcast programs love reviews. So if you loved what you just heard, consider leaving us a review. And even if you don't, I'm sure you already did, but consider sharing our episodes and our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Sharing is caring, and here's to your success. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
It's the bottom line that matters.